All right, what is going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick's During the Power. So I wanted to address a question one of you guys asked me, and that is whether or not I think Phil Heath can match or beat Ronnie Coleman's record of 8 Mr. Olympia wins. Now, currently, Phil Heath is at 7 Mr. Olympia wins as of 2017, going for that 8th win in 2018. So the question is, can he tie Coleman's record in 2018, and can he pass Coleman's record in 2019? So first and foremost, it's not just Ronnie Coleman's record. He shares that record with Lee Haney, who also won 8 Mr. Olympia. So they're tied for that record. So Phil Heath would also be tied for that record if he does win 8. So it would be a 3-way tie. So that would not make Phil, the greatest Mr. Olympia ever or anything. He would just be tied with Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney. Now, before we get into this video, I want to say we should go into this with an open mind and be unbiased about it. We got to set our bias aside and just look at Phil Heath as a bodybuilder, not Phil Heath's personality, not Phil Heath, how he treats his fans, not Phil Heath talking about, weekend warriors and classic physique. We need to just set that aside and, look at Phil Heath as a bodybuilder, as a Mr. Olympia champ, and evaluate whether or not he can win 1 more Olympia to match Coleman or 2 more Olympias to surpass Coleman and Haney. So if anybody has a reason to make a biased video about Phil Heath, it would be me. I mean, Phil Heath has me blocked on Instagram. He said some pretty negative things about my channel. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I do think that he can win 8 Mr. Olympias and tie with Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney. So I'm going to tell you guys why I think that. So number one, you got to give Phil Heath some credit here, whether you like him or not, whether you like his personality or not. You can't deny Phil Heath had a gut in 2017. I mean, we know he had it. I think Phil knows he had it. I don't think anyone is denying that Phil Heath had a bubble gut. I talked about it in my Mr. Olympia video, and I think that's probably why Phil Heath blocked me. Even though I said I still thought Phil deserved to win, I didn't think Ronnie did enough to beat him. I did mention Phil Heath's gut in the video, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason why Phil Heath blocked me on Instagram. So the question really isn't who do you want to win the Olympia. The question isn't do you want Phil to win 8. The question is will Phil win, and will Phil win 8? So I would ask you guys this. If you guys were betting on the Mr. Olympia, say you're betting a large sum of money, or you're betting your life on the 2018 Mr. Olympia, who would you bet money on? The 7-time champ Phil Heath, or Big Ronnie, who has never won a Mr. Olympia and has never taken down Phil Heath? Now, you can dislike Phil Heath all you want. You can talk about his personality and his gut all you want, but you're betting on the champ. In my opinion, I think if Big Ronnie was going to take down Phil Heath, he would have done it in 2017. If Big Ronnie was ever going to win the Olympia and do so by beating Phil, I think 2017 was the year he was going to do that. And since he did not do that in 2017, I don't think he can do that. That's not to say Big Ronnie won't win the Mr. Olympia in the future when Phil Heath is done and retired, but that's to say I don't think Big Ronnie can beat Phil. I just don't think he can do it. He just hasn't brought the package that he needs to bring that's impressive enough to beat Phil Heath. I mean, let's be honest here. Phil Heath basically left the door wide open in 2017. He came in with a gut. A lot of people felt he was significantly off and that the gut really ruined the flow of his physique. But even with that gut, Big Ronnie still couldn't do what it took to beat Phil Heath. So you got to look at the odds here. Let's say we have the exact same Ronnie and the exact same Phil from 2017 going into 2018. We know what the result's going to be because we already saw it in 2017. We can see an off Phil Heath beat a good Big Ronnie. But can we see a very good Phil Heath be beaten by anybody? So say Phil Heath fixes the gut. He comes in very good. He comes in at his best. He comes in at 100%. Can Big Ronnie beat him even if Big Ronnie's 100% on? I honestly don't think so. I think a 100% Phil Heath with no gut is virtually an unbeatable bodybuilder. I mean, the thing about Big Ronnie is he's huge, he's big, he's freaky, he's impressive. But the thing about it is there's a lot of things about his physique that are disproportional, like the size of his quads compared to his calves. I mean, he has some areas of his body that, yeah, they're super big, but they might be a little bit too big and throw off his physique to an extent. He's not very balanced. And balance and proportion is really Phil Heath's strongest point. Every single body part is balanced. Phil Heath is arguably one of the most complete bodybuilders to ever step on the Olympia stage. And again, if anyone has a reason to dislike Phil Heath, it's me, but I can't deny the fact that Phil Heath is going to go down as one of the greatest Mr. Olympias of all time, regardless of the gut problem in 2017. I mean, look at his physique from 2011, 2012 Mr. Olympias. That is one of the most impressive Mr. Olympias you're ever going to see on an Olympia stage. 2011, 2012 Phil Heath. I mean, forget about it. No one is beating that guy. So besides Big Ronnie, I don't really see anybody else potentially beating Phil Heath. I think a lot of people want to see William Bonac beat Phil Heath. Could he do it? Maybe, but in all likelihood, the odds are heavily against that happening. So again, you got to go back to the betting thing. Who do you have the odds on? Phil Heath winning another one or someone else coming out of nowhere and beating him? I would say the only way Big Ramy beats Phil Heath in 2018 is that Big Ramy comes in 120%, shredded to the bone, just freaky beyond belief, and Phil Heath comes in at like 70%. And since we've never seen Big Ramy really do that against Phil Heath or do that at the Olympia, and we've never seen Phil Heath at like 70%, we've seen him, pretty low, probably around 80, 85%, but we've never seen a horrible Phil Heath, and we've never seen, a super stellar Big Ramy at the Olympia. So the odds of that happening, I would say so far, are pretty bad. And keep in mind, time is definitely on Phil Heath's side here. Phil Heath is only 38 years old, so let's say by some freak anomaly, Big Ramy beats Phil Heath in 2018. So far, I would say the odds of that happening in 2018 are very, very slim. So imagine how slim the odds are of Big Ramy doing that 2 years in a row. I think even if Phil Heath gets beaten in 2018, that might light a fire, underneath him that's strong enough to get him to come in 2019 and come in the best Phil Heath we've ever seen. If Phil Heath gets beaten, he's going to want to come back and get that 8th title. He's not going to want to settle for 7. I think if Phil Heath gets beaten this year or next year, whatever the case may be, I don't think Phil Heath is going to stop competing until he at least gets 8 Mr. Olympias. Phil Heath is going to keep going until he gets 8, whether he gets beaten in between there or not. I think we're going to see Phil Heath get 8 Olympias for sure. Now I'm going to say the odds are a little bit further of Phil Heath getting 9. Phil Heath getting 9 Olympias would make Phil Heath, by definition, the greatest IFBB pro bodybuilder in the history of bodybuilding. And for him to do that, I don't think when he's going for his 9th, the judges are going to be so lenient on him. I think, in the past, he had the champion's advantage. The judges are always a little bit more lenient on the returning, defending Mr. Olympia, and the champion always has that edge. But I think when Phil Heath is competing for his 9th Mr. Olympia title, he's going to have to be 100%. Because when he gets crowned with that 9th Mr. Olympia title, that will make him the greatest bodybuilder of all time. And the judges aren't going to give that crown to somebody that's coming in off to win their 9th Mr. Olympia. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. Because that's the biggest deal in the history of the IFBB, is to win 9 Mr. Olympias. So I think when Phil goes for that 9th title, if he does, that will be probably one of the strictest judged Olympias that Phil Heath has ever had to face. So in my opinion, can Phil Heath tie the record? I think yes. Will he? I think probably. Can Phil Heath break the record? I think yes, he can. Will he? I think the odds are a little bit less, but I think in all likelihood, we might see Phil Heath break that record. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm happy, if you disagree with me, feel free to disagree with me in the comment section. If you don't like Phil Heath, I'm more than happy to see your arguments against Phil Heath. I don't make these videos for everyone to agree with me. This is just my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.